Hello guys! Today I would like to do a different kind of video, again, more of a theory video rather than a deck building video because there is a surplus of good deck profiles and medium deck profiles on YouTube, but there is a lack of matchup to matchup discussions. So I would like to first of all go over a very interesting mirror match, over a very interesting match that can happen in this meta. And it is the Shaddoll Invoked versus Nekroz Incantation matchup. Why I find this interesting? Because Shaddolls and Nekroz were in the same format in 2015 and 16, while this again is 2020, and it seems that Shaddoll Invoked is as the evolution of Shaddoll from 2015 is a very relevant deck right now, and I would like to discuss how to beat it because Nekroz is interestingly enough, already back then was a very good counter to Shaddolls. Well, now I would like to go over how the situation is right now. So, what did Shaddolls get from the new support that came over the last 4 years? Well, we got Alistair, and that means they actually have a one card engine that completely works on its own. So this greatly improves the top decks that this deck can do, and also greatly improves the consistency that Shaddolls can provide. And it also improves the quality of boards that they can produce later on. So that is what happened mostly on the Shaddoll side, and also Shaddolls got, of course, their new structure deck support with Apkalone, with Wendy. Apkalone in this matchup is not going to be that relevant, but of course, Wendy is going to be relevant because she's pretty strong. Ariel is going to be kind of relevant because she can out Valkyrus. So if your opponent tries to OTK you, it could be that your Valkyrus cannot pop off because you don't have any Nekroz monsters in your graveyard. Well, and that mostly handles what Shaddolls are now right now. Of course, all the new staples came and everything. And Nekroz right now is, yeah, you guys should be aware of the incantations being really strong in Nekroz. And that is the main trick that Nekroz gained. But interestingly enough, it also gained something through the Shaddoll structure deck, which is the best level 6 Kaleido target, which is Apkalone. Um, so why is this the best level 6 target here? Because if you send it off of Kaleido, you get to search Shaddoll Fusion. So one thing in this matchup that makes it very favorable for Nekroz is that you do not have to end on extra deck monsters to have an effective board. All you have to do is Unicore pass, and that is it. So if you don't have any extra deck monsters, Shaddoll has a harder time playing their Shaddoll side of the engine. Of course, if they draw all the Shaddolls, then it's pretty strong, but that reduces the likeliness of them drawing the Alistair. And Alistair is another threat in its own, of course, because Alistair is a negate. And it will actually stop some of the things that Nekroz wants to do to disrupt Shaddolls. So let's first of all talk about what Shaddoll did back then, and it's mostly just Winda and Construct combos. And good to know that Winda gets outed by any of the good Nekroz monsters, and that is really relevant because Winda is kind of their going first win condition, and currently Shaddoll Invoked is a going first deck, even though it can go second. But versus Nekroz, it doesn't want to go. I don't know if it wants to go first or second versus Nekroz because the best thing that this deck can do, and let's talk about boards in this case, is it can end on Appaloosa plus Construct or Appaloosa plus So the board could look like Appaloosa Mechaba plus a set Shaddoll plus El Shaddoll Fusion. That is like the hardest board to break of this deck. But the boards can also be as simple as Super Poly plus like a Shaddoll set. And that is like really easy to deal with Nekroz. Also, something that has changed is it is no longer, and which should be kind of obvious, is that the deck is no longer built to kill Shaddolls. So, and I'll mention this right now because this is the greatest threat that this deck can do. Annoy completely stops ritual summoning from hand or graveyard, and that means Nekroz cannot play. Literally cannot play. If your opponent sides this, good luck, you'll need kaijus, or you need something to negate this, because this is going to be a pain in your ass. And they can actually hard summon it because they have a main decked water monster right now with Ariel. Yeah, anyways, but in this video I don't really want to discuss this, I just want to mention Annoyatilis as the ultimate win con against Nekroz. Um, so what? So let's talk as a Necros player. What are you going to do in this matchup? Um, First of all, I would go second against this matchup because you give them a couple fewer cards as an advantage, and like if this deck opens Alistair, a simple Unicore pass may be insufficient to deal with what this deck can do. Like you would need a Unicore Gungnir pass and whatever. Your main goal in this matchup is to trish them and evenly them and remove as much advantage as possible because Shaddolls have a really bad problem that is also similar to Nekroz and their problem of really quickly losing hand advantage compared to, like, for example, the likes of Salamangreat or Guru or similar decks. So, like, if you want to play Shaddolls, you're against Nekroz, you're often going to go pretty minus in your hand. But even though you trigger your Shaddolls, of course, and that means like your hand advantage is going to dwindle. And also, you cannot Shaddoll fusion for extra deck monsters usually, and that is also something that you're going to avoid with Nekroz to make extra deck monsters, to stop them from plussing off of Shaddoll fusion. What you really have to be aware of is that Shaddoll fusion can really quickly OTK you if they open Wendy or Squamata. And the best thing you can do against it is Unicore Pass with either a backup Valk or a backup a backup Valk or a backup Gungnir. If you can like back this up with Unicore, you're pretty good. You're pretty solid in your situation. There are a couple of things that you could summon in your extra deck, but you can only summon them if you are really sure that you can kill them. First of all, I mentioned Apkalone. If you are siding or maining a Shaddoll package, you could use this to OTK them because you can send that and get a Shaddoll fusion, and your opponent is almost always going to have a fusion monster on board, which means that you can resolve Shaddoll fusion for free. Another thing you need to realize is that you have to play around window. So the main thing that you need to care of is before you resolve any incantations, you need to summon either Brionac or Unicore or Trishula and get rid of any likelihood that they have a window. And then you go for the other advantage plays with Trishula and whatever. With Souls, you would have to be kind of careful that you don't get wrecked. Also, of course, there is the Kaliga window board, which is going to be really hard to deal with. Though, if you can hard summon a Brionac against that board, you are good because you could bounce the window and then run over the Kaliga, and then afterwards Trish them, because they still have a Karas sheep in hand on field. And like this is what you can do versus the Invoked deck, the Invoked Shaddoll deck. I think, and also let's talk about side decking. As Nekroz, what is good to side deck against this? Like the obvious cards you would side against a deck like Invoked Shaddoll is Imperial Order or Anti-Spell, and we unfortunately also die to that card, so that is kind of hard to deal with. So I would actually side Denkos, maybe. Like depending on what their build is, I would consider to side Denkos. You could opt to side the Christia package or main the Christia package, and then try to sit on the Archler Christia, because they will have a really hard time of getting rid of it. And the only outs to this is like Dark Ruler no more, or stopping you from making it with Droll. And like this should be really solid. So like going second, really I would consider the Dankos, because Danko stops the El Shaddoll fusions from coming down. And if you can stop the El Shaddoll fusions, you're mostly free to play. Like one negate, the one mecha bud doesn't matter. The scariest thing that could happen to you is that you have to play through the Appaloosa and the Mechaba. In that case, I would really try to, like, first of all bait the Mechaba, and then try to summon a Unicore, and then or a Brianak, and then try to beat over the Appaloosa, because the Appaloosa is always going to be three negates unless they open broken, and that is basically how you deal with this. As a Shaddoll player, how do you deal with Nekroz? The only thing I can say is summon Anoyatilis, and that's about it. It's kind of discouraging, but like yeah, Anoyatilis is probably the best thing you can do, and also you have to top deck pretty well against Nekroz. I would side Dark Rulers versus Nekroz. I would side Kaijus versus Nekroz. I would and I would see if you could side Border versus Nekroz, if you like play Border, and that should be about it. What you can do against Nekroz as a Shaddoll invoked player. This video is kind of stringed together pretty loosely, because this is a very quick idea I had, and there is a kind of lack of a lack of research that I did to this. And I would like to for you guys to know if there are any other matchups that you might consider that I should do a video on. I will do a video on the Subterra matchup, because I've kind of solved the problem with it, or at least reduced the amount of stress that matchup puts to you by incorporating a couple of techs and a couple of gameplay philosophies against it. Well, anyways, I hope you guys liked this video, and share with your fellow Necroz players, and I hope it helps. See ya.